Hey all, my name is Paul Borosky. I am the owner of FinanceHomeworkHelp.net as well as Quality Business Plan. And what I'm going to do today is show y'all what an NPV profile is and how to make an NPV profile in Excel. And so the easiest way to explain what an NPV profile is just to explain by creating the template. So also, if you prefer not to do this template yourself, at this link below, you can buy the template that I'm going to create. Save you all a little bit of time. All right, so the first thing to do when you're doing an NPV profile is to set up the the cash flows for the NPV. And so we'll go ahead and title this NPV profile. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and merge these two together. And now, when you're calculating the NPV, or net present value, and in a nutshell, a net present value is simply the present value of a future cash flows, and then you would subtract the investment made to attain those cash flows. All right, so based on that brief example, let's go ahead and do our construct here, and it'll be 3 files instead of 2. And what we'll do is we'll call this initial year, initial investment. Actually, hold on a second. Let's start with labeling this year, because we're going to need our years, our cash flows, year cash flows, and then we're going to need our cash flows. So we got those, and then anytime a business is started, or a project is started, or a new product line is started, we're always going to have an initial investment. And so we'll call that initial investment right here. And then right here, this is going to be year, and these are just going to be the years that we're going to receive the cash flows. And I call these years, but we don't even really need to call them years. These can be months, or they can be weeks, or heck, they can be days. But these are going to be the different cash flows. And let's make this a little bit prettier. Put that in yellow, make it bold and beautiful. We'll go ahead and center these. We'll bold these up as well. And so for the year, for our cash flows, the initial investment is always 0. So that means we're making the investment today. And then we'll go from there 2, 3, and we'll go ahead and put an equal sign there. And actually what we'll do here is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's see if we can grab. All right, so now what we have here is we have our cash flows. And I'm going to go ahead and center these numbers right here. All right, so the next thing we need to do is, let's go ahead and put this in a box here, because this is our title, and let's make this a different color. We'll make this an orange. And now the next thing what we need to do is we need to find what our cash flows are. So we're going to come up with a cash flow of negative 50,000, 500,000. And then our future cash flows, we'll call it 150, 1, 2, 3. And then let's go ahead and format this. And we'll format this using the comma upstairs. And that gives us our dollars and cents, or just numbers with two decimal points afterwards. And then we'll go to 160,000. 1 extra, 170, 180. Again, a little too far. 190. All right, so far what we have here is we have our NPV profile title. We've got our column titles. Here we have the different year labels. Here's the different years that we're going to have for the NPV, for the cash flows. And then we've got to set up 5 different cash flows. All right, so we've got everything we need to go ahead and get our NPV. So the next thing we're going to set up is going to be what's called a data block. And in this data block, we're going to go ahead and merge it. We'll bold it. We'll throw a box around it. And all titles I like to put in yellow. All right, so we got that in there. So the next thing what we're going to need is we're going to need a base cost of capital. And it could be called the discount rate, you call it whack, you call it whatever you like, you can call it ham sandwich. But this is just going to be the interest rate that we are going to discount each one of these cash flows back to the present day dollars in order to find out what the net present value of this cash flow is. And so the base, we're going to start with the base at 15. And when we're creating an NPV profile, we don't just want to find what the we don't just want to find what the NPV is. We want to find out what the NPV is going to be at different discount rates or cost of capital. So the next thing we're going to do right here is we're going to call this next box increment, and we're going to do an NPV profile based on 5% increments. So now that we got our format set up, we're going to now, let's go ahead and go back here and let's clean this up. Let's throw a box around this. All right, looking pretty. And then we're going to make all of this area right here blue. Anything in blue you can go ahead and change. So these numbers right here, you can change them, and it's going to change our NPV profile. All right, so with that said, we've got all this information here. So we've got our cash flows here, and we can take them all the way down to 21 years. We've got our base cost of capital. We've got our increment, which we're going to change the cost of capital by 5%. And we're going to turn these blue, because again, we can change these. And now we're going to throw a box around it. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually do the NPV profile. So we'll just type in NPV profile. We're going to need 3 columns for this. So we'll merge 3 columns together. And first thing we're going to need is we're going to need the increment. Then we're going to need the rate. And then obviously we're going to need the NPV. All right. So we got that taken care of. Let's bold this. Let's go ahead and make this a yellow. And let's center these headings right here. And we'll bold those. And we'll throw a box around those. And then like we have here, we'll try to match up the color there. And we'll call that whatever color that is. And then we'll throw a box around this. All right, looking pretty good here. So the first place we're going to start is we're going to go 3 rows down, and we're going to call this base. And then what we're going to do is we're going to call this right underneath base, we're going to call this increment. We'll call it increment 1 and increment 2. So we're going to take this base of 15%, we're going to add 5% to it to make it 20, and then we're going to add 5% again to it to make it 25. This is going to be decrement 1 and decrement 2. And all that means is we're going to deduct 5% from that 15% base. So, starting off with the base, we're going to tie this into the base here. So right here is our base. So base cost of capital is 15%. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that 15% and we're going to add to it the 5%. Brings us up to 20%. We're going to do that one more time. We're going to take that 20%, we're going to add 5% to it, and boom, we've got now 25%, and we've got it incremented twice. We're going to play the same game except subtraction. 15%, and we're going to subtract that by 5%, takes us to 10. And then again, same game, we're going to hit that 10% there, and we're going to back it out by 5. So now we've got it incremented 5, 10, 15, 20. We can change this to 20%, we can change this to increment of 2, and everything's going to roll over hunky-dory. So we're going to keep our base interest rate of 15% and our increments of 2. We're going to calculate our NPV. So like I said, NPV is a net present value, and all that is a company is going to get cash flows for the next several years. In our example, we're going to have cash flows for the next 5 years of $150,000, $160,000, $170,000, $180,000, $190,000. Now, based on that information with an NPV of 15%, we need to figure out what our net present value is. So we're going to use the NPV formula, type in NPV, open up a parenthesis. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on this rate right here. Click on that, then we're going to open up, do a comma, and then we're going to highlight all of the squares except for the initial investment. Close it with a parenthesis, hit enter, And now what we have here, we have the present value of these cash flows. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add to it the initial investment. So you hit plus sign, hit the F4. So now what we have here is we have the net present value of this cash flow based on a 15% interest. Now what we're going to do is we are going to lock down these cash flows. So we're going to highlight F5 to F25, and we're going to hit function F4, and that gives us dollar signs that's in front of the F and in front of the numbers. And we're going to do the same thing with this right here, function F4, or put a dollar sign in front of the F, dollar sign in front of the 4, hit enter, and now these are locked. These cells right here are locked, they're not going to change, but that L6 cell right here, that's going to change when we drag this up and down. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the bottom right, we're going to grab it, we're going to take it up, and then we're going to grab it again, and we're going to pull it down. And so now what we have is we have our net present value based on different discount rates. So this shows us that if the discount rate is 20%, we're going to be losing money. Anytime a net present value is negative, it means the company is going to lose money. It's a no-no. If the net present value is 0, then what that tells us is that the company is indifferent. They don't care if you do the project, you don't do the project. It doesn't matter. Just, whatever. If it's a positive, that means that you're growing the company. So for example, with this NPV profile, if our discount rate is 15%, we are growing our company by $60,000. Growth is good, we do the project. All right, so now we've got our NPV profile all ready to go, and it looks all pretty and stuff. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to graph this NPV profile. So the way we're going to graph this is we're going to highlight rate, NPV, and then we're going to drop it down. We're going to go to Insert, and we're going to click on Recommended Charts, and we're going to scroll through the recommended charts, see which one's the prettiest. And I kind of like this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that one. And now we've got our NPV profile, and I don't like that it's not the same profile, so I'll change that. Change it to NPV profile, and then we can go up here and we can select what kind of a pretty graph we like. I like that one. And so we have now the NPV profile, and it shows that at the NPV of 5%, here's what this cash flow is worth, and at an NPV of 25%, what this cash flow is worth as well. So hopefully this information was helpful in showing you all how to make an NPV profile and what it is. If y'all, instead of wanting to recreate this yourself, just go to this website right here. You can go ahead and purchase this template. And if y'all need some finance tutoring or anything like that, or any other finance templates, just check me out at financehomeworkhelp.net or Quality Business Plan. All right, thanks a lot.